Hey, how's it going, folks? Hey, I got a lot of comments where people want me to finish a whole poem. They want me to go deep on a poem. They want to get really all into it and wring out all the meaning. I don't know if that's just the poets who are sending me poems or whether it's all the viewers who feel that way. No idea. But when people comment, that's engagement. I love to hear from you. So I'm going to give you what you want. Now, that being said, we're just going to take a quick time out here, quick time out, and just reiterate what this channel is about. I am not doing literary analysis. We're not looking at these poems the way we would look at poems in a literary anthology. We're not looking at these poems the way we would look at them in an English class. I'm not an English professor. I'm not an anthology editor. We're looking at these poems as prospective literature, the same way an editor of a literary journal would look at them. Typically speaking, editors have to read a lot of poems quickly. And when they find something that doesn't work, whether they stop reading there or effectively stop reading there doesn't really matter. As a poet, you're fucked. Your poem is going to get rejected. You need to open strong. You need bold imagery. You need to situate the reader, and you need to grab them by the stones and pull them in. That's the type of stuff I emphasize on this channel. And for good reason. It's hard to break in, guys. The competition is fierce. There's a lot of people writing great shit out there. Now, if people send me high quality stuff that's really interesting, even if it has a few flaws, we can try to slow down and get into it and tease things out. So I'm going to try to play both sides here a little bit. I'm going to look at where I feel this poem isn't working, and we're also going to try to take it more holistically and see if there's opportunities to fix it. We can't always do that, okay? Because I don't want you guys to be looking at your poems in that way. I want you to pull the plug as soon as something isn't working when you're revising and fix it. Fix it aggressively. Be aggressive in your revisions. I want to encourage that. That all being said, I think there's enough meat and promise on this poem from good Frohicke to really help us get a little bit deeper. So, steak is served. Sanctuary. Amid work, I reach for texts in secret with a longing I would feel for a shaded grove as I lean into the plow. Now, look at this amid here. I would feel, which is this subjunctive verb tense, ladies and gentlemen. All these things tell us about a poet who is deploying language at a specific diction, a diction of kind of more rarefied, studied language, right? They could say, I was at work reading texts instead of doing my job, instead of Excel. But I was distracted by a feeling I couldn't shake, and I kept daydreaming about some meadow or some hill where I would be plowing something or something. You guys get the idea, right? You could write this poem with very different diction. And we're going to continue with this different, heightened poetical diction, as if in indolence, again, a big word, I could flip an hourglass. Again, it's not a watch, it's not a clock, it's not, a punch sheet or whatever. This is an antiquated thing. I could flip an hourglass. Most people don't flip that hourglasses that often, except they're toys, right? We have toy hourglasses these days. I guess a few people have toy hourglasses in their kitchen, but no one really uses them for that, Everybody uses their phones to keep the time. Not this poet. To tilt the coolness of tilled earth. You see this play on, this consonants here and assonants. It's kind of near rhymes, very effective. And receive the air, weighted with leaves. Now we got this autumnal idea. As a draft of words decanted, I guess that's referring back to these texts. I don't know right now. I'm just reading. Right? I don't know, like, are these text messages they're getting, or are they like trying to read like their Oxford Shakespeare in secret? I don't know what the fuck is going on. This poem hasn't situated me as a reader. I'm interested in the language, but I'm totally confused as to what's going on. Why do they reach in secret? Are they distracted by text from a lover? Maybe they got back to me, bro. Like, maybe they got back to me. And their boss is creeping around like, I wonder what Frohick is doing on the job again. Maybe Frohick is goofing off! All right? So, I don't know. Frohick is kind of goofing off because we have no idea what's going on in this poem. That's just a wild guess. I'm just making this up. The poem doesn't tell me why the draft of words was decanted from a sluice between where the sun cannot fall and my toil cannot reach. Sluice is cool. Sluice is like water washing over them, like a sluice of water, right? Decanted from a sluice, or I guess that could be could be a mechanical device. It's a sluice, whatever. It's hard to see immediately what they're talking about because the draft of words is compared to a sluice between where the sun cannot. So it's all really difficult to literally situate yourself and see what's going on in this poem. It's like, it's going on, but it's the language is exciting and interesting, even if I've no fucking idea. Should I return with gifts? Let their weight be subtle on my... Should I return with gifts? Let their weight be subtle on my shoulders, as undisturbed. So again, this kind of subjunctive tense here. Would I return with gifts? If I were to return with gifts, their weight would be subtle. All these types of... this is a conditional here, I think. Should I return with gifts? Let their weight be subtle on my shoulders. An undisturbed pool behind my eyes, a susurration wreathed around my speech. So the susurration is then a kind of a whisper, right? So they're looking to get something out of this Oxford Shakespeare that they secretly want to look at, of these text messages, and we're not sure what it is, and we have no idea. Who knows? Maybe they're Piers Plowman. Maybe that's what's going on. We don't know. Let them be more bearable signs of the voice that fell upon me in that idleness, to speak more fully beneath the boughs, so more poetical gesticulation, but we're still totally lost, of words that settled with the dampness of evening, of perched in flocks. Why is there the dampness of evening? Why are there flocks? Surveilling the alleys? Flocks? Perched in flocks? So birds perched in flocks, or sheeps perched in flocks? Is Piers Plowman tending sheeps? Alleys beneath their lines, whose lines? Or fled at the edge of tall grass, sloping to the freeway where my brother lay. Okay. Here we go. So this poem just really takes too long to get to this point, because it's the emotion that's then the reason for this elevated speech patterns and for this highly stylized vocabulary and grammar is because it's an elegy. It's someone who's having difficulty formulating their thoughts, or a speaker who's having difficulty formulating their thoughts, and is using this protection of ornate language in order to deal and process the difficult emotion that they have. So it's very effectively done. This has to happen, like, I don't know, up here. And if you move this way further up, then all this other kind of language that seems to be looking back into the past, looking into this kind of romantic tradition of pastoral poetry, really a lot of Milton's Lycidas in here, all that stuff would make a ton more sense if you habeas corpus, if you produce the body earlier. Show us the body. Habeas corpus is a good principle in law, and it's a good principle in poetry. Get to that body sooner than all this other, this clever use of formal language and of allusion to poetic earlier, the long tradition of elegy and bucolic poetry in the West would work really effectively as a way of indicating at the speaker's frame of mind without having to literally say, "I'm so sad my brother's dead." It really would, it would be, and it is lovely. It is lovely, lovely writing here. This susurration wreath around my speech would make sense. This wreathing is from this the dignity of the brother that is in their dignity. They become dignified in how we remember them. So it's just a lovely, lovely thought. Let them be more. Okay, well, here we are. My brother lay of the unformed ends of conversations. Okay, where I'd wish to rend as open and oracular. I'm not sure. I think oracular might be a miss. Avuncular? I don't know. As my father. As open and oracular as my father. So your father is like an oracle? You're missing me there. And again, if we're going to have this father, we're going to need to put the father way up in the poem. I think this poem could work very effectively without the father. I think introducing the father at this point really complicates this poem unnecessarily. The face as my father under the face of grief, but could only stand in its gloaming. I don't know what's standing. It's fluorescence and hymns. I'm not sure what you're talking about in this part. I'm sorry, it totally lost me. This stanza is just needs a lot of work, or just cut it. Unable to join those less afraid of the work. Does this go back to the plowman? What is the work? Who knew their sight would sunder here? What? Who knew what? Who are these people? And behind closed eyelids sunder again. Closed eyelids of the dead? To reach for texts that bloomed beyond longing. I just am totally lost in these last two stanzas. Maybe there's secret information, like the secret texts. I don't even actually completely understand what these texts are about. I guess I would think that the speaker is looking on their phone for text messages sent to them by their dead brother. But that's just a total and complete guess. It could be something completely and totally else. It could be text from the father. I don't know how much it matters. If we could just see in some concrete way that the worker's distracted by grief at work over their brother's death, if we could get that information quickly and effectively, then a lot of this other tone and diction and register would be justified and effective. I would also really strongly consider reading Milton's Lycidas, since it's this kind of bucolic themed elegy in the same way that you're doing. And it talks about this you have this wreath in this poem, and for Milton, he's mourning the death of a friend who's a poet, and he wants to use this kind of imagery of the wild laurel to give his friend's death dignity and weight, and you make these poetic allusions to Ovid. And the whole thing is one of Milton's best, perhaps Milton's very best poem. At any rate, I think you could learn a lot from Milton's technique, and his pacing is very similar to yours. His stance towards grief, where he's elevating his language a lot, is also very similar. Some really wonderful writing here. I don't know if I would highlight specific lines. I guess that to tilt the coolness of tilled earth and receive the air weighted with leaves. That strength continues more or less as a draft of words decanted from a sluice between where the sun cannot fall and my toil cannot reach. These negations here, they might end up working out. I mean, you could think about it. These negations are interesting. So yeah, some terrific writing here. A little clarity, and situating the reader in the specific grief situation earlier on the poem. Clean up the dismount, clean up the eggs, and I honestly, you really have a winner here, Frohika. I also like the ambition. I like how you're interested in incorporating these kind of raw elements. I don't know that all your allusions are finished and polished yet. You might want to make more specific targeted allusions to specific poems. But I like how you're kind of drenching your poem in the elegiac oeuvre, and you're kind of looking backwards at the tradition of poetry as this source for inspiration and source for how to treat things. With this plowman here, obviously Pure's Plowman is not an elegiac poem, so that I think is a little bit of a miss. I would find a specific allusion, either a mythical allusion or to a specific poem about grief, which specifically concerns grief, and get to that quickly with the brother, and then return and strengthen that image that will ground some of your highly kind of abstract language about these words decanted gifts. What are the gifts? I mean, are we going to talk about the parable of the talents? That's another Milton sonnet where he does that. Gosh, I could go on and on. There's a lot of opportunities in this poem. There's a lot of promise in this poem, and the chops are bold and the ambition is bold. And when you open yourself up as a poet to write about difficult topics like this, I think in the long term, that's going to help you grow and develop. You're taking risks and putting yourself out there that weaker lights and weaker talents can't do. So I salute you, Frohika. Good luck. And feel free to drop me a line if you need some clarifications on stuff. And it has been my pleasure to delve deep on your work. Thank you.